My name's Catherine Dyer, and I'll be your host today for AulTECH's presentation, AI in the Workplace. We're going to introduce to you Microsoft Copilot today. We at AulTECH are working hard for our clients to improve all of your IT services and to remove the IT burden, leaving you free to do what you do best. Before we get into today's presentation, I want to let you know about a new feature at AulTECH that is available to our clients and to new clients. It's called a Secure Plus audit, and it's an easy to understand IT audit that covers 4 areas. And these areas include infrastructure, managed support and services, continuity of operations, and security. And so what this audit does is it has 36 touch points, and it gives you a quick risk score about how your IT programs and services are doing. So you can learn where you're currently at and ways in which to improve. After you do the audit, there's a summary page that's intuitive and easy to understand. And so for more information about how you can take advantage of this new service at AulTECH, please reach out to us at info@aultech.ca. So I also, before we get into the presentation, I want to let you know how to engage with us during this hour. We're going to be asking you some questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. And if you have any questions, please feel free to just raise your hand or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. There's no bad questions except the ones that don't get asked. And so I want to introduce you now to AulTECH's founder and CEO, Jeff Aul, who's here today to tell you about AI in the workplace and new features coming to all of the Microsoft 365 suite of services. So Jeff has been helping teams implement IT solutions since 2009. AulTECH translates business needs into technical solutions. As CEO, Jeff acts as a consultant, developer, requirements analyst, and project lead. He prides himself on being personable and friendly while removing the IT burden on organizations. He's an accomplished singer and guitar player. He plays 60s rock, folk, and some modern music in local venues in Southern Ontario. He's a graduate of Mohawk College as an information systems technician, and I'm really happy to introduce you to Jeff, who's going to tell us about the AI in the workplace. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our event, AI in the Workplace. Today, I'll be introducing you to Microsoft's new Copilot tool, and along with exploring some of the benefits, risks, and the potential issues of having AI in the workplace, artificial intelligence. We want this particular event to be interactive discussions, so we ask that you please keep your cameras on. So let's just start right into the interactive session. If you wouldn't mind turning your cameras on so we can see your hands, your real hands. And so by a show of hands, who went away for the May 24 weekend, the one just passed? Anybody won? I went away. That includes anywhere, cottage, camping, somewhere other than your home. Yeah, come on. Okay, great. Okay, how many of you brought along your work device? You know, don't be shy. I know I did. Yeah, right? Okay, bonus question. Is your work device also your personal device? Yeah, smart. Okay, some of you said no. That's really good. But it's interesting how our workplace has changed, specifically since COVID. It really was quickly got us to where we were already heading in the work from home environment. IT was already in place, ready to go. Management wasn't quite on board there, but COVID really accelerated that change for us. AI is another profound change that's on our doorstep here. But before we get into AI, I'd like to just give you a quick sneak peek about next month's topic. So next month, we plan on focusing on securing your organization. So what that means is we're going to be uncovering trends for 2023, providing you important information that will not only protect your organization, but your clients and your staff as well. So watch your inbox for the invitation, and as always, please share this with anyone that could benefit from it. So that's your friends, your colleagues, other business owners. It doesn't matter. Everyone is welcome to these free events. Okay, so let's just jump into today's webinar, AI in the workplace. Now, you may have already heard about it in the news, or maybe you've even got an account, but ChatGPT is all the rave these days. Everyone's talking about it. More and more tools that AulTECH uses has some sort of a ChatGPT interface now. It's a plugin, or it's a side panel to allow us to do more. OpenAI is the company that it backends into ChatGPT. But what is artificial intelligence? It's a sophisticated algorithm based on language patterns. It's using something called a large language model, which basically just means it's been trained in a vast amounts of diverse data from the internet, books, articles, and other sources to help it develop a deep understanding of the language patterns, grammar, and context. The system is designed to understand and generate human-like text. However, it's important to note that while these tools can generate impressive text, they don't possess true understanding or consciousness. They rely solely on patterns learned from the training data and lack any personal experience or real-world knowledge beyond what they're trained on. In other words, the tools can generate compelling-looking text, but they can't do any real thought analysis. So just to give you a quick demo of what ChatGPT can do, I'm just going to switch over to my other screen here. This I've been playing around a little bit. We're going to start with a quick little demo and give you an idea of what it can do. So the ChatGPT interface, as you can see on your screen, is just a quick prompt. You type your message down in this area here. So I want to learn how to curl. Now, arguably, I've already learned, but I want to learn how to curl. So I just put the question in there, just like you would a Google search, and it generates some real good information about curling. Some quick information about the playing surface, the stones, how a team is done, how the scoring works. Some basic rules. All this stuff you could learn on the internet. You could just Google search this, no problem, and you could learn this stuff. Or I could just type the question into here and let it scour the internet for me. Just kind of interesting. We can go a step further. Let that finish, but you can see how fast it is, right? It's spitting a lot of text out. But let's say I want to plan a trip to Niagara Falls. What do I need to do? Right? I could spend hours on the internet trying to scour that, or I can let this chat bot basically do it all for me. Right? This is the best way to how to plan a trip. Gives me some ideas for where to go, some attractions, check out the Maid of the Mist, whatever. Go on a wine tour kind of thing. So there are lots of ideas. And, how step by step, how I should go about planning this trip. Makes it figuring it all out really simple. But let's say, okay, yeah, well, that's all great, but actually, I really want this to be a romantic trip with my wife. So what about a romantic trip? Right? Whoops, can't spell. What about a romantic trip? It knows I still want to go to Niagara Falls. It knows already what we've been talking about. So poof, here we go. It's now redoing it all, so it's got a more romantic feel to it. Kind of makes me look really good to my wife. Maybe she's kind of like all of a sudden impressed. I don't know. Or maybe it's like that movie where that guy is in the bushes telling somebody how to speak romantically and doesn't ever work because he's not really the romantic guy. I don't know. But go get a candlelight dinner, go wine tasting, picnic by the falls, all kinds of really cool ideas, romantic ideas, things to do. Oh, couples at the spa. Oh, I tell you, it'd be great. Okay, but it can do more than that. How about we quickly just say, oops, give me a quick dad joke. Why don't eggs tell jokes? because they might crack up. Oh, okay, that's all fine and good, but like let's do something that's a little bit more work related because that's what you're really going to use it for. So let's see. I want to work on my website. I'm a roofing company, and I want a one paragraph call to action thing. And in seconds, you can see it's going to generate a whole bunch of stuff that I can just pretty much copy and paste and put on my website. And if I don't like the tone of it, I can just say, make the tone funny or whatever your tone happens to be. And there it goes. Right. So within seconds, for me personally, I'm not very good at all these words. I'm not a wordsmith person. It would take me probably days or weeks to kind of come up with something that was maybe half as good as what this just did. So as you can see, it's fast. It's pretty accurate. It's not perfect. I do want to proofread this before I put this on my website. Make sure that it does fit my tone. It does fit the message that I'm trying to convey. You know, spelling is probably perfect, grammar is probably perfect, but you want to proofread it for sure. Okay, so let's see. Let's take you back to the presentation here. Does anyone have any questions about that at all? Has anyone had a chance to play with ChatGPT?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
What
I'm in
what
my
were
MBA program and I have an accounting class, and I've been using it to generate ideas for essays and trying to understand different concepts. Um, it's kind of changed the way assignments are done, to be quite frank. I do notice that it has made mistakes for sure. So it's not just a plug in and submit kind of a program, but it has really improved it just gets my ideas starting, and gives me a framework to work on. So yes,
Yeah,
I don't know.
totally understand that.
Have others used it?
Anyone else? Don't be
Is
shy.
there is there any way for me to tell whether my kids are using it to try to skate by at school?
That's interesting. The quick answer is no. The chatbots are pretty good at convincing everybody. Even though they have robots already that scour people's essays and look for plagiarism, and the chatbot is so good that it gets by most of that plagiarism stuff, if not all of it. So it's actually quite difficult to know. Maybe one good tip off might be that they're using words that aren't in their vocabulary. That's a good tip off. So your grade
Sure.
5 essay probably shouldn't be talking about nice $10 words in there. But yeah, good question though. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yeah, go
a
ahead.
lot of my professors are talking about ChatGPT as changing the way school is done,
Hmm.
because it is not plagiarism. It doesn't track in the same way, but it does. Like I said, it's not always perfect. Even simple accounting equations I've put in, well, maybe they're not simple, but I have noticed that you do need to proofread, because again, it doesn't understand what it's saying. So it's just sort of spitting out language that looks coherent, but not always accurate. But yes, it's not only is AI going to change the workplace, it's going to change school for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Yes, Anne.
I was just wondering, if you use ChatGPT, does it tell you like the sources that it's pulling the information from?
I have not seen it do that. I haven't played with that. You might be able to ask for sources and it might be able to do that, which would be great for school essay writing, right? Because you're supposed to reference your sources. Why don't we quickly share my screen and why don't we just see what happens? What would be a good thing? Essay on Canada Federation. Oh, I spelled Canada wrong. This might take a little bit while to go, especially as it has to decipher my bad spelling. Now, it does take longer because I'm asking for an essay, right? So maybe I should have prefaced that with, like, you know, a 4-page essay or a paragraph. It would have been faster.
Paragraph.
Paragraph.
I have noticed.
Oh,
Oh, I have noticed that you can ask it for references, and
great.
you can even ask it to put those references into this format that you need for your assignment. It's pulling from this huge database and from the internet. So unless you ask for references, it doesn't reference. But if you ask it to do it, it does. And yeah, so that's interesting too.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Great question. Thank you. Okay, well, let's move along then. So now that we see how easy it is to use the ChatGPT interface, you can get to just create content, or at the very least get your ideas flowing. One question that comes to mind, or at least for me, is rather than jumping between windows to copy and paste stuff, is there an easier way? And the answer is soon to be yes. Microsoft is introducing their new feature called Copilot, which will basically take the ChatGPT prompt system and embed it right into all of the products that we know and use every day, Word, Excel, etc. Now, it's not ChatGPT. It's using the OpenAI platform, which Microsoft is a huge contributor to, both financially and intellectual property. And so they have a version of it that is going to be sort of outside of that ChatGPT ecosystem. But it's built on and leveraging the OpenAI platform. There's already a lot of automation within the Office suite, as you probably have noticed. You get prompts all the time to change the format or use this template, that template, whatever. This is going to take it an extra level further. It's just going to ramp it up even more, because it is using the data already in your Microsoft 365 tenant, your Word documents, your Excel documents, and it's referencing those to help generate more content. So there's currently this is in a closed beta program. So there's about 20 large organizations that are testing it right now and evaluating the features. There's currently no release date and there's no ideas about pricing. But you know, I sort of expect that soon. So let's take a closer look at some of the applications. So for example, you can do the reading on the screen. I won't bother you with that part. But in Word, there's going to be, you know, you want to create a new Word document. And just like we did with ChatGPT, you say, build me a presentation or a business proposal for X client using these notes from this Word document. And off it goes, and it does what you've asked. You have to proofread that, of course. Once you've read through the initial answer, you tell Copilot to change the tone, make it more concise, whatever you really needed to do. And within seconds, you've got a new Word document waiting for you to proofread and to finalize. And currently, I use ChatGPT, just like I've said, to draft statement of work, proposals, business policies, website content, and more. I use it as a template. And for the most part, 90% of the time, it gets what I want. I then copy and paste that into Word and work with it from there. So it's not impossible, it's a little bit cumbersome to do. And so this particular feature is going to make my life a little bit easier. Where is going on? Click. There we go. Excel. Okay. So now that you've created your business proposal, let's work on Excel. Again, it's really simple for the AI to do literally everything for you. Create charts, pull data from external sources such as the internet or your own work Excel documents, make graphs, make pivot tables, something I'm looking forward to. I don't understand pivot tables, so I'm hoping this will just make my life easier there. But again, really powerful, anything you can kind of think of. Making new webinar decks is going to be a real breeze. It's going to make this particular event creation easier for me. So you just tell it, given this Word document and maybe this spreadsheet that we just created, summarize the Word document, pull some data from that spreadsheet, make compelling slides, make it 4 slides long, and boom, there you go. You got a 4-slide presentation ready to go. It'll pull stock images the Microsoft thing, which you can already do today. There's a stock image feature up in the taskbar, and it just doesn't do it for you. You have to do your own searching. How many people here wish you had a personal assistant? Show of hands. Personal assistant. Who wants one? Who wants one? Yeah, right? Who doesn't? Well, now you've got it. Outlook is going to have it built in, of course. And with your with your microphone, this is where it's going to shine. So you can already use your microphone on your cell phone to dictate emails or whatever It's not great, of course, but you're now going to be able to use that to dictate your prompts into Copilot. So, you're driving into work and you can just say, summarize the emails that I missed from yesterday because I was away, or that I have to get caught up. I was in a meeting, so summarize all the emails that I've just missed. And then it's gonna do that for you and spit the answers out for you. Makes life a lot simpler. How many of you have ever sent an angry email out only to wish you had proofread it first? Yeah, come on. Okay, well, a really sad story. I follow this tech circle, and recently someone asked the question, what do you use ChatGPT for? And the best answer was this guy from somewhere, I don't know where, who uses it to tone down his angry emails to vendors. So what he does is he drafts his angry emails to the vendor to say, your hardware is doing this or whatever. It's really angry. And then he pastes it into ChatGPT, asks them to tone it down, and uses that to send it off, which I thought was a pretty ingenious idea.
Yes, I think it would save a lot of relationships.
I think so. Okay, Copilot in Teams, this platform that we're using right here. So like it's saying in there, you come late to a meeting, just ask it to summarize, and there you go. You don't have to scroll through the translation, try to get caught up. You don't have to interrupt the meeting flow and ask what just happened. The chat interface will just do it all for you. The interesting thing here is create a table of pros and cons. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's great that I don't have to think about the pros and cons. I can let the computer do it for me, but it's kind of scary in one sense. Anyway, to summarize, this tool will have a lot of access to your entire Microsoft tenant, your ecosystem in Microsoft. So you can extract data from any document, stuff you've already created in the past, stuff you're about to create, something you created today. So you can make business proposals with ease, much, much more. Security is a concern for everybody. So Microsoft has compliancy policy rules. Now these are already in the system already. They're in the back end, and the compliance is about the governance. So everyone's probably aware with HIPAA, or I think it's PETA, which is the Canadian version of the HIPAA rules. It's all the privacy rules that people have to adhere to for either the industry that you're in, or at least the government says. The EU, they have their own rules, like the data has to reside somewhere within the EU. Most companies in Canada insist that the data resides in Canada. Those types of rules, right? Microsoft has all this in place. So the compliancy rules are already there. So the Copilot is going to adhere to the policy rules and is going to adhere to that. AulTECH is going to help set those up for you, as we already set up rules in the past. So you don't have to know about it or how to make it work. We'll help you to tweak those rules and get it all set up. Any questions so far? Okay, great. So like I touched on briefly, security. So while these tools are going to be extremely helpful, they do come with some risks. Privacy and/or anonymity are difficult to maintain. So care needs to be taken when within the prompts, the stuff you put into the search, because the data you entered is no longer your own, right? The data you type into those prompts is no longer your own. Microsoft is slightly different. They're saying it's within your tenant, but if you use that ChatGPT, you have to be aware that all this data you type into the prompt is being used to teach the AI further. Now, there's also been some breaches already within the ChatGPT system. They have been able to exploit it to get into the chat prompt history. So although they don't have a specific account and they can't say a specific user, they might be able to, given the information you're putting into the prompt, be able to identify what company you work for. So it's important that you don't leak sensitive information, intellectual property, or trade secrets, right? So you don't want to put those into that. Some organizations are quite aware of this and have said, they put policies in place saying, do not use these open source tools until they have been kind of had a chance to grow and evolve for these very reasons. So the way we get around this, organizations need to be aware of these risks and inform the staff through policies and procedures, and making sure that the staff know how to use them and what they're allowed to use them for, and if they're allowed to use them at all. So, like I said, some large orgs have just outright said, don't even use this free stuff. Now, all that being said, Microsoft is emphasizing that Copilot is grounded in your organization's data, and it works securely while respecting your compliancy rules, or the policies that we talked about. So they're emphasizing that security won't be a problem. Your data doesn't leave your ecosystem, your tenant, when you're using the Microsoft tools. Making sense? Any questions on that? Okay, great. So AI in the workplace, is it tools that make life easier, or is it Big Brother controlling everything? So on the one hand, these tools we just saw make the creation of content really simple. I love that I can do more with less. On the other hand, AI tool development is powered by large corporations, right? There's certainly going to be bias built into them, and revenue generation won't be that far behind. Just look at Google. Now the searches we perform on a regular basis it's very, very difficult to find what we're looking for. For example, like all the pay-per-click ads are always at the top, right? Anything you're looking for is pay-per-click first, followed by what you hope is your right answer. Half the time, it's rarely got what you want. For example, I was looking for rustic ceiling fans, so I put it into the search and I get 10 sites. Nothing was quite what I wanted, so I thought, well, I'll look on page 2. Everything kind of looks the same, so I look on page 3, and is there really anything new here? I look on page 4, and well, I was happy to learn that there's really only 10 websites in the entire world selling ceiling fans. Or not, just 10 websites that are really good at SEO. So my point is that Google is pretty biased these days. It's very hard to do searching and not get biased information. The evolution of technology in the workplace happens very quickly. COVID taught everyone that we could work from home. We had already learned, we were already there, but management kind of was refusing to believe that it was possible. Once everyone realized that productivity didn't drop, as a matter of fact, it stayed the same, or in some cases went up, it was adopted almost overnight. Many of you have said today you've even said that you take your work device on vacation. That was unheard of not that long ago. So here we are, AI in the workplace. Will you embrace it, or is it a fad that will just go away? There was a similar fork in the road in the 90s. Computers were being very popular. Business had to decide if they wanted to adopt them or not, that they want to make the investment. Most organizations invested in the technology because it made life easier. Some held out. Many of the holdouts simply couldn't compete. They lost their footing in the marketplace. And eventually the holdouts, they had to capitulate, or they just simply went out of business. And the ones late to the party, well, they never really recovered. Similarly, people had to decide if they wanted to learn how to use computers. And I can speak from my own personal experience. People of my generation, a lot of people opted out. They too got left behind. So I think whether we like it or not, I think AI is here to stay. And we can embrace it, or we can run. Open discussion time.
Thanks
The time you all wanted.
Jeff. I actually have some questions.
Great.
I want to go back to the security risks.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about how each organization would be able to set its own rules for, for using Copilot. And I just wondered, whether or not that would be embedded into the Microsoft 365 suite, or whether or not that's like a separate policy that employees would have to know and understand.
Yeah, so it's a bit of both. So the organization is going to create a policy that you would read as an individual would read and say, these are the rules that, we want our staff to adhere to. And those are really just kind of high level rules that the organization as a whole should adopt. But it goes a step further. So Microsoft 365 has rules baked in. And so in the back end of the system, there's a bunch of policies that can be created that the software adheres to. So it's going to be driven from the organization policy and procedure that everyone has to read and understand. That's going to drive what rules get set for the software inside the Microsoft tenant. And so that's where AulTECH comes in. We're gonna set the rules up in the software based on the direction from the organization.
That's really helpful. And you also were saying about data. You made a really good point that the data that you enter into the prompts is not no longer yours. And so I wondered, and you talked about how the data can be stored within the organization. Can you say a little bit more about the data storage and how AulTECH works with data storage?
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple questions there, and I'm probably going to forget them as we go. But so ask it again. The data is stored in when you use the Microsoft tool, the data is stored in your Microsoft tenant. When you use the open source ChatGPT, the data is stored in the open source ChatGPT tenant, which is, platform. So we have no control over that data at all. That's used how they feel like using it, mostly to train their bots. It could be exposed through hacks. We have no control of that data. So you have to be very careful about what you put into that prompt. The Microsoft ecosystem, the policies and rules that we decide to implement are going to dictate what's allowed. So if you try to put in personal identifying information, the rules are going to kick in and say, but you're not allowed to do that. And so the bot won't answer that prompt, or will say this isn't allowed, or I don't exactly know how that's going to look because I'm not part of the trial. But so your data is going to stay within your Microsoft tenant. And that's just your own personal organization ecosystem. Yes, Alice. You're on mute.
If I don't want my employees using ChatGPT, is there a way to block them from that?
ChatGPT is a public website, so it's really difficult to block them. You would set a corporate-wide policy that people would read and understand and adhere to. So if they break the policy and you catch them, there's reprimanding for that. Organizations might implement something at the firewall level to stop that particular website from users from being able to get to that website. AulTECH, we can implement those rules at the firewall level. But you take your device home, you're on your own home network, your own home environment. We can't necessarily stop you. There's things we can put on your laptop to prevent you from getting to that website. But there's ways around everything as all of the grade 6s figure out. They can all get on the Wi-Fi at the school no matter what they try to do. There's always a way around stuff, right? So yeah, there's really no way to prevent your staff from doing it other than having a policy that says, please don't do this, and we're going to slap you on the wrist or whatever reprimand you do. That being said, the Microsoft side of things likely is going to have the ability to turn this feature on and off at the corporate level and possibly at the staff level as well. I'm not so sure about the latter. Okay, so would you guys actually use these features if you had them? Like if once Microsoft rolls this out, is this something that you think you might actually use? Anybody? Yeah, go for it. Anne.
Sorry, I have It's just something came to mind, and I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you know the answer, if it's sort of too early in the testing stage to know this, but like, will there be a signature or something from the program if it's used AI to, let's say, create a presentation? Or, or will it just sort of be up to the individual to identify whether or not it's their original work or AI original work?
Great question. And I think the answer is no, you're not going to know. Again, I don't have the tool in front, but if you're using ChatGPT, no way to know. Microsoft possibly has that ability baked in. I haven't seen the product, so can't answer that question exactly. But for sure, like that's for sure a scary part of it, right? I know for sure I've read where people are considering letting go some of their staff, right? They have staff on board that are going to generate content of some sort, and they now realize that, well, in 30 minutes I can generate the same content. I don't need to hire a staff person for that. So for sure that is, that type of a scenario can play out in an organization. And yeah, you can look a lot smarter than you actually are for sure with this stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like you were saying about the fork in the road around technology and the use of technology. And are we at the place now where we were in the 90s around computer use? And but I was curious, and I started trying it and seeing, what it are its benefits and limitations. And yeah, I think I will continue to use it. I want to know what, what it has to offer. Like, so for example, in the example that you gave around wanting to take your wife on a romantic trip to Niagara Falls, I kind of want to know, what does it have to say? But I still need to be able to think for myself and be like, well, actually, she doesn't actually like boats, so that's not a good suggestion. We're not going to go on the Maid of the Mist,
Yeah,
and so yeah, but because of I think it's already, millions of people are already using ChatGPT, and it hasn't been out for very
absolutely.
long. And so
Yeah,
even if I wouldn't want my colleagues to use it, I think they will, and are going to. I think I think when you're talking about the security risks and personal information and health information and all of that needs to be really carefully considered, and where that data is being stored. And I know that so much work is happening in the back end now with Microsoft trying to figure all of that out, and all of the users, of course, trying to figure out how do you say enough that what's generated is specific enough that it's usable. Because you do have, the more specific you are with your prompts, the better the information is. You can ask for tone, you can ask for length, you get very, very precise. But like you were saying earlier, there's a risk that you might share a trade secret or share intellectual property that you might not want public. So it remains to be seen, certainly, how all of this is going to work.
Yeah, for certain. Alice, you have a question.
Well, I was just thinking about that romantic trip with your wife, and obviously it would be better if ChatGPT knew your wife. And as things evolve, are you going to be able to say, can you look at all of my texts or emails with my wife and then generate me a romantic getaway? And then that brings up the question, is that, a violation of your wife's privacy?
Excellent question. Excellent question. And also, like, are you just phoning it in at a certain point, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to think about it. I'll just paste this chat history and let the robot do it all for me. You're kind of faking it. So yeah, for sure, privacy is a real concern, and you're right. We don't have the answers yet, and that's a lot why the large organizations are telling their staff not to use this stuff yet, because it's too early in its life. It's not been vetted. We don't really know what the driving force behind these large corporations is. Why are they investing so much in this AI tool, right? Is it just like Google? It's all revenue based and they just want to make money. I mean, obviously that's part of it, but What other biases do they have? We don't know. And privacy is big. Privacy is huge.
I do think that it wouldn't be able to read another person's email, but if it's embedded into Microsoft, it can maybe read your emails. Read your emails in Outlook and spit something out in Word. But again, the functionality isn't. We don't know yet exactly. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's correct. But you're right. It is going to be baked into Outlook, so it does have the ability to read your emails and generate proposals or whatever it is you want to generate from that. So it won't be too long before it's on your phone, for example. And what's to say it's not reading your text messages? And to Alice's point, it's reading through your chat history and saying, oh, hey, did you know you told somebody 4 days ago this thing? Don't forget to do it. Microsoft has a feature already called Viva, V-I-V-A. I think this is what it's happening. That sort of does that. It's reading your emails, and every morning you get an email from it saying, "Oh, this is your daily snapshot. These are your meetings that you've got scheduled. These are the things you should be following up on because of an email you sent 4 days ago." That type of feature's already there.
So Jeff, in summary, unless there's other questions, what's the number one policy that you would recommend your clients to have in place when Microsoft Copilot goes live?
Yeah, well, again, it's really about the privacy, right? So each individual organization, each organization really needs to evaluate for themselves where they stand. They might have governing bodies that they have to adhere to, for example, HIPAA. They have to follow certain regulatory rules. So that's going to help guide them in their decision process. But each organization needs to decide for themselves what makes the most sense around AI and where to go. Privacy is going to have to drive it, as it drives everything these days. And yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Any final questions before we close off?
Thank you for a very informative presentation.
You're very welcome. Okay, well, thanks again for showing up, everybody. Just a reminder, AulTECH clients will likely have this feature with your Microsoft license, but we don't know yet. We don't know what it's going to cost. We don't know when it's coming out. Hopefully, we'll have those answers soon. We pride ourselves in knowing the latest features and informing you, our clients, before it hits the market. Staying current with industry trends is something we just do. We like doing. We like keeping you informed. We want all of our clients to be successful. So knowing your needs and values helps us to help you. So it's important that you keep us in the loop of your business goals and changes before they happen, because we can help even if it's just to get ideas. The feedback survey that we're going to send out, that's going to help us shape future webinars. So please take the 2 or 3 minutes to fill that out and send that in. That's going to help us provide better content you're interested in. So please give us topic ideas and answer all the questions. A special thank you to Catherine for your time and dedication. This isn't easy, and I really, truly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for attending and making our event a success. We hope you learned something.
Thanks
Have a good
so much,
day.
everybody. Have a wonderful day.